road and cycling freely. I'd spent much of the past week in plaster, recovering from the leg injury that I'd picked up jumping off the famous Stary Most Bridge in Mostar, a few hours back down the road in Bosnia. It had probably been a foolish thing to do. The locals had advised against it during winter when the river was running deep, but I've been prone to doing foolish things all my life. Once a class clown, always a class clown. As far as I was concerned, my big mistake was to listen to the guide, who persuaded me to use a different technique than the one I used to jump off the cliffs back home in Dunbar. I'd hit the freezing cold water with my legs slightly bent. I knew I'd done something wrong the moment I came out of the river. A doctor told me I'd torn the anterior cruciate ligament, or ACL, in my right knee, and would need to remain in a plaster cast for 3 weeks. I'd cut it off after only one. I'd been too impatient to hang around for longer, and I left Mostar before my next appointment at the hospital. So, as the sun rose up ahead of me, and I made my way up the long, slow climb into the mountains that morning, my main concern was the same as it had been since I'd returned to the road, not to inflame the injury in any way. I knew that my knee was okay, as long as I didn't move it from side to side. I was focused on pumping my legs rhythmically up and down in the same plane. I soon settled into a nice routine, and it seemed to be going fine. I was feeling confident that I might get 50 or even 100 miles under my belt. By mid-morning, I had entered a mountainous region on the southern tip of Bosnia. It felt a long way from civilization. The last town of any size had been 10 miles further back down the road. I'd ridden past a quarry of some kind a few miles later, but it was deserted. I was on my own. The spiralling road wasn't especially steep. It was more of a long, slow, gradual climb, which suited me fine. There were sections where the road fell away too, giving me much appreciated breaks from cycling. The views were spectacular. I was riding along high ridges and looking up to soaring, snowy peaks. It was exhilarating. I felt so good, I decided to put on some music. The sound of Come Home, a new song by one of my favourite artists, Amy MacDonald, was soon blaring out from the speakers I had strapped to the back of my bike. I must have been in high spirits, because I began singing along to the chorus. On another day, the lyrics might have been designed to make me feel homesick, and there was a moment when I did think about my mum and dad and my sister back in Scotland, waiting for me to come home one day soon. We were a close family, and I missed them. But I was enjoying myself too much to dwell on it. Home will have to wait a while longer, I thought to myself. Of course, it never occurred to me that something else might be waiting for me, a little closer than home. I was riding along another gently rising section of road when it happened. At first, I wasn't quite able to make out the faint, slightly high-pitched noise that seemed to be coming from behind me. For a moment, I dismissed it as the squeaking of my rear wheel or a loose fitting on the bulky panniers that held most of my clothes and other gear. I'd applied some oil when I had my next break. But then, as I stopped singing and the sound became clearer, I realised what it was. I did a double take. It couldn't be. Could it? It was meowing. I turned and, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A scrawny, grey and white kitten was scampering along the road, desperately trying to keep up with me. I hit the brakes and pulled up to a stop. I was shocked. "What the hell are you doing here?" I said. Further down the road, the hills had been dotted with small goat sheds and farms. But high up here, in the mountains, I'd not seen another building for miles. There was barely any traffic around. I couldn't fathom where it had come from, or, more to the point, where it was going. I decided to take a closer look, but by the time I'd parked the bike and climbed off, the cat had skipped off the road, through the metal crash barriers and into some loose boulders. I scrambled down and